morning everybody, it's Jen here from May Dynamics. I hope everybody's keeping well and keeping safe, even if you are stuck at home. This particular live video was requested by a contact or a friend that we have through Krav Maga, Wanda, and like many people at the moment, she is now working from home and asked for some tips for how people who've been doing it for a while actually go about working effectively from home. And it's really funny because when she asked me about this last week, I actually thought, I don't know. I don't know how to work from home. And then I realised that over the last 2 years of working on both Dynamic Krav Maga and May Dynamics, I've actually got together a routine that works well. And I am actually working really effectively from home now. But that it took a lot of learning on how to get there. So what I've done is tried to put together some of the sort of strategies worked for me over the years, and that I think hopefully one or more of them will help anybody who finds themselves in that situation now, trying to work out how to cram 8 hours work into a day at home with all the normal distractions that you have. So I'm going to go through a few things. I'd love to hear from you if you want any advice or if you have questions about what works or how to implement anything at all. So the first thing I'd say, it's really important to be proactive. You need to set the agenda. And the first part of that is you need to understand what your role has to be or should be. So for those of us who are business owners working from home, I always say that we tend to wear 3 hats, at least at the beginning. And I'm sorry everybody, I'll have to show you this. Daisy, give me the same smile again. So currently, I'm homeschooling children as well. I just had a little face on the other side of the face to give me a big smile. So there you go, that might brighten up everybody else's day like it did mine. We're wearing 3 hats. You need somebody to grow the business, the sales and the marketing. You need somebody to do the work, and you need somebody to manage the business. And of course, for most of us, that's us. We're trying to do everything. And so we're going into this kind of forearmed with what our role is, what we do. There are lots of people who work in an office, and usually, they might get in and they might actually be assigned, okay, the first thing you need to do, second daughter just gave me a cup of tea, so there's some benefits to working from home. There are certain things you need to do between 9 and 11, and people don't have that now, so they're going to have to become a lot more proactive about designing their days and designing their weeks. So the biggest thing I would recommend here is compartmentalizing. Decide what activities it is that you need to complete within the course of a week, and then if you can, assign particular times to doing those activities. So these are the routine things that you would always do. So for example, I roughly divide my week into 5 days, and I know on a particular day I'm more likely to do a certain activity. So for me, it's business management tends to happen on a Monday, including team meetings and communications. So everybody's got a set agenda for the week, including myself. And then Tuesday is around marketing, Wednesday is business development, Thursday is content creation, and Friday is a little bit of everything. It's a wrap up of whatever needs to be finished off for the week. And that level of organising my schedule works really well for me, especially with that sort of Friday balancing act thrown in there. A lot of people will do this into 2 sections, so they might have a morning and an afternoon shift, for example, and you can go into more detail. So if you know that you need to process all the invoices the last Wednesday of the month by 4 o'clock, assign a slot 12 to 4, Wednesday, the last day of the month, and it will help you build that into your system. So first of all, what and when. Secondly, turn your notifications off. Now this sounds really strange, I know, to a lot of people. So often people come into work and the first thing we do is check our email inbox. I've turned mine off, and I've turned it off deliberately because it means I choose when I want to check my emails. I choose when I want to check my messages, my LinkedIn messages, my Facebook messages, my Messenger messages. The list is endless. It feels endless at the moment if you're checking them all the time. But what I do now is I check them twice a day, and I then get on to the things that come out of it. And quite often by then I'll have discovered that I'll actually have done the things that need to be done, or I'll have something in place for an easier answer to come. But basically the whole point is I'm managing my life. It's not managing me. And that That saves me easily a day a week in just being proactive about what I'm choosing to do. Second big piece of advice for everybody, organise your week by a week, not by the day. So what you're going to find is that you'll have good days and bad days. You'll have days when everything goes right, and you'll have days when everything goes wrong. Don't beat yourself up about that. It's normal, and it's part of life and part of overcoming the challenges and growing as a human being. So what I do, for example, here is I create a weekly to-do list. And over the course of the week, I will take things off as I complete them, and I can also add to that. So on a normal week, I probably get through about 30 tasks. But on any one day, I will look at that list and I will say, okay, well, what are the top 3 most important things I need to do today? And that's the starting point. So it's not a separate list per day. For me, it just doesn't work. It just gets too confused. And I get to the end of the day and I feel awful that I haven't finished everything. But that weekly list works really well. Hello, Cletus, it's lovely to have you here. And at the end of the week, I can keep that list and I can look back and see what I did. And it gives me an enormous sense of achievement, knowing that I might have felt like everything was crazy, but actually I did get through those 30 tasks, even if I didn't do them on a Tuesday morning as I planned to do. So keeping those lists is a really good idea, and it also gives you a nice little audit of what went on when. Secondly, this is really important, expect off days. As I said, there are days when you get up and for whatever reason you haven't slept well, or something breaks down in the morning, or everybody's in a bad mood, and you get nothing done. And that's okay as well. It's really hard when you're in the routine of you must go to work from 9 to 5 to accept that it doesn't always apply. But when you're working from home, it really doesn't. And you can make up those days. You know, if I really genuinely get to the end of a Friday afternoon and I know I haven't done as much as I needed to do, and my conscience is basically telling me this is a problem, you need to do something over the weekend. And so those are the times that fill-in weekend time or evening time works really well for picking up those tasks. Thirdly, work out what works for you. So this is an extension of the good days and bad days. But for me, I've got 3 children, I've now got 3 businesses and a house to run. So the routine that I've found out works for me might not work for everybody. But what I do is I get up at about 7, I spend 2 hours prioritising the children, getting them to school, I walk them to school so I get my exercise built in. And then when I come home I spend about half an hour setting other things in track. So housework, doing the washing up, possibly putting on a wash or hanging the washing out to dry. That half an hour, I used to feel like it ate into my productive working time, but over time I've come to see it's one of the most productive parts of my day. And then I have that nice sense, hi Chris, it's good to have you with me. I have that great sense of achievement that there are things happening in the background, even if it's just some cups drying on the draining board. I know that it's happening while I'm being productively working. Secondly on this is going to sound really counterintuitive. If you look at most of the experts out there, they'll tell you that to be productive working from home, you need to keep a routine. You need to put on your work clothes, your lippy, put on your shoes and pretend that you're going to work. I've actually found, for me, that's not the case. Now, absolutely, there are some days when I will put on a suit and I will be absolutely keyed up, and that's the best way for me to be. There'll be other days, however, when for whatever reason, it's not the most effective way for me to work. And those days, I need to go with the flow. So those days, it might just be a case of wearing jeans and then slippers. And I feel better because I know I'm comfortable. There are days when I've been feeling under the weather, when I've actually been ill enough that maybe I wouldn't have worked if I'd been in an office, but I've actually been able to claim those days by just literally working from bed for the whole day with a heater on, and got 4, 5, 6 hours productive workout on a day that might have actually failed otherwise. So just go with it. Find what works for you, but not just a general thing, what works for you that particular day. And everybody needs to remember at the moment, we're all in this crazy sense of grief and turmoil because of the crazy coronavirus world that we're living in. So right now, it's particularly important to be thinking more about what works for us, not how we're being our best on a daily basis. Because let's face it, very few of us are at our best at times like this. Thirdly, what I found is that building in of food and exercise. You need to make it a conscious choice when you work from home. So you're your manager. You are responsible for your choices. And that includes things like what you eat during the day. So I will always let myself have a consistent source of tea because I'm British, and we pretty much, it's what runs through our bloods in Britain is cups of tea. But equally, I'm really careful not to have chocolate or something in the house because I don't want to be turning to that kind of unhealthy snack when I'm working from home and I'm hungry. Much better for me to have something like oat cakes or nuts or fruit. Okay, so that's the main sort of three things. I'm just going to give you quickly, a lot of you will have heard us talk about it, the Pomodoro technique. This is a productivity technique that Gary and I both use very effectively in slightly different ways. So essentially what you do here is you assign chunks of time to a particular activity, and it doesn't really matter what the activity is. So I would, for example, set my alarm for 50 minutes, and I would spend that 50 minutes writing a blog, not worrying about the editing of it, not worrying about anything else, just purely writing the blog. And at the end of that 50 minutes, the alarm goes off. It raises me from that pure intense focus, and then I get 10 minutes to do what I want to do. Now, again, for me, that's going to be making a cup of tea because I'm British. But for other people, it might be going and doing 10 minutes exercise. It might be hanging the washing out on the line. It might be checking Facebook. Lovely to have you here as well, Rosemary. So yeah, those are all the things that I can suggest. The Pomodoro techniques, the either 25 or 50-minute bursts of intense activity with either a 5 or a 10-minute chunk of downtime work really well. They give you all the focus that you need. So definitely try it. And what's great about that is if I've got the children at school for 6 hours or even for 2 hours, you can get 2 bursts of Pomodoros in and still know that you've had an effective day. Now, all I've talked about so far is a bit I was pretty confident about helping a few people with, at least, because as I said, I've learned. Somebody asked me how you go homeschooling when you're working from home now. I don't know. Over the next 6 months, I think we're going to have a lot of experts on this subject all chiming in with their advice. So I've tried to work out the things I've worked out so far. I'm going to share them with you. Not sure how useful they'll be, but hopefully something comes out of it. So the first thing, I've got 3 children at home. I've got a year 7, a year 6, and a year 2. So they're 12, 10, and 7. And I'm probably lucky in a way because my 12-year-old has fairly strict high school subjects. So, she's very disciplined and she knows what she needs to do. I suspect if I only had a 7-year-old around, we would be struggling a lot more for committing to doing schoolwork so intensively. But I researched what homeschoolers need to do, and actually it starts in year 1. They need to do an hour of schoolwork a day to keep up academically with the curriculum, and then add 20 minutes to that for every year that they go through. So my year 2 needs to do an hour and 20 minutes a day, my year 6 needs to do 2 hours 40 minutes, and my year 7 only needs to do 3 hours of schoolwork a day. And that's what we've found is actually playing out. So the routine that we've got into is that we get up and we go in the garden and we do some exercise first thing. It's a nice mixture of cardio and strength and then stretching. It's really waking us up brilliantly for the day, and everybody's in a really good mood by the time we finished and had some time in the sun. And then we sit down and they work from 9 to about 12, 12:30 at the most. And that is fairly intense, going through at least 3 or 4 curriculum subjects each. I'm letting them choose a little bit. As much as possible, they're setting their own timetable. Because again, I figure what they learn over the course of a week is far more important than what they learn over the course of a day. We're trying as much as possible to incorporate those lessons into what they need for their lives as well. So as I said, I need to exercise. We're doing exercise first. As far as I'm concerned, tick, we've done PE for the day. Good. I've got them baking and cooking. So why not have one of them make breakfast and one of them make lunch? It's a perfect opportunity for them to increase their cooking skills, which they will need for their whole lives anyway. And even, you know what, it sounds really mean, but even cleaning. Like, the kids can clean. I've had my 7-year-old tidying her room so far today, and it's definitely a reasonable thing to do
as part of your homeschooling, that they do those sort of tasks that otherwise they might not want to. And then when I was thinking about this, I realised that homeschooling is the same as being a manager, because you need to be a leader. And so a lot of it is that delegation. So I'm giving our 3 children the chance, I'm trusting them as much as I can to find the work they want to do, to work through subjects they don't need to do, and to work on lessons that they have been set. And at the end, they come out to the point that at the end of the day, they tell me, I've just been given a teddy bear. Here we go. They tell me what they've done. And if I can see, I know I've checked their work, they've asked me if they've got any questions, and I can see that they've worked dedicatedly for 3 hours, and I know that they're good. So by that time, they can then go off and they can do art, they can do music, they can play gymnastics, they can whatever, and we go for a big walk in the afternoon. So, you know what, as far as I'm concerned, the actual homeschooling part here is going really well so far. The problem I have at the moment is how to turn homeschooling into working from home effectively, because I have just taken out this big chunk of my day, and even in the afternoons I'm finding now that I'm tired and I'm wanting to be with the children, having the fun, doing the walk that they're having. So I need to work further on that. I get a maximum of 20-minute chunks during the morning. So I set them an exercise, they go on and work with it, and while they're working, I've got time to do something. I record a video, apparently. This is one of my chunks. Some other times it might be checking my emails. But what I haven't got is that really productive time to focus. And that's at the moment what I'm missing. So my challenge next week will be to work out how I take my afternoons and evenings and I turn those into productive times. So one thing that's strange about my way of life is that quite often if I have really detailed things to focus on, I'll actually end up doing them at 8:30 or 9 o'clock at night until midnight. I can't do it too often, maybe once or twice a week at most, or I get too tired. But that way of focusing actually works really well for me. So what I will be doing next week and later this week is setting some Pomodoros for the afternoon and the evening and really seeing how that works. And then I'll give feedback on how productive I can be doing that the concentrated tasks that I would usually do in the morning when my brain is freshest, but trying to do those at those slightly more obscure times. So that's it. That's all the pearls of wisdom I've been able to dredge up for you today. I just wanted to say, everybody who is working from home, everybody whose lives have changed almost unrecognisably over the course of the last week or two, we're all in this together. Look, this is my home office at the moment. It's a schoolroom. We've got devices, we've got children everywhere. We've got cups of tea, we've got pens on the table. We're all still working. We're actually really enjoying being together a bit more. And there are some real upsides that come out of this as well as the downsides. So if you're struggling, please reach out and talk to me. What I've realised is that everybody's having good days and bad days. And if you're having a bad day, hopefully I'm having a good day. So give me a call and we'll help. And I'll do the same to you. And just keep going, everybody. You've got this. See you all.